Hello there, you're now watching TVS News at 5. I'm Muhammad Yusuf and let us begin with our top story. A man in his 20s was killed in a single vehicle crash along Jalan Tanjung Kidurong after he reportedly lost control of his vehicle and hit a tree. The Bintulu Fire and Rescue Department Bomba was alerted at about 9:16 p.m. The Bintulu Bomba Zone Chief, Wan Kamarudin Wan Ahmad, said the deceased, identified as Justin Andy Minggu, was pronounced dead at the scene by a medical officer. 6 personnel were dispatched to the scene and they managed to extricate the trapped victim from the wreckage. The victim's body was then handed over to the police for further action. Now, over 22 million individuals, or 97.5% of the adult population in the country, have completed their COVID-19 vaccination as of 11:59 p.m. on Saturday. And based on the Health Ministry's COVID Now website, over 23 million individuals, or 98.8% of the group, have received at least one dose of the vaccine. As for the adolescent population aged between 12 and 17, over 2 million individuals, or 87.2% of the group, have completed their vaccination, while over 2.8 million, or 90.2%, have received at least one dose of the vaccine. Meanwhile, with over 25,000 doses of the vaccine dispensed yesterday, 23,698 were booster doses. The remainder of the number, in which 1,244 are second dose and 515 are the first dose. This brings the cumulative number of vaccine doses administered under the National COVID-19 Immunization Program, or PIC, as of yesterday to 56,748,229 doses, including 5,389,370 booster doses. The My Sejahtera app has been updated with a new function called My Sejahtera Trace, or MySJ Trace, which allows easier close contact tracing with those who tested positive for COVID-19. Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin said the application can be downloaded and updated starting today. In his latest Twitter post, Khairi said that the MySJ Trace uses Bluetooth technology to track close contacts that also use the same feature. The feature will provide live information on the number of interactions with other users, provided that their MySJ Trace is activated. Additionally, this feature has been sent simultaneously to Google, Apple, and Huawei. According to a joint statement by the Science, Technology and Innovation Ministry, or MOSTI, and the Health Ministry, MOH, the MySJ Trace function was developed to fulfill the demands of the Find, Trace, Test, Isolate and Support FTTIS program, one of the monitoring programs by the MOH to prevent and control the spread of COVID-19. To ensure the effectiveness of the feature, users are required to activate their Bluetooth on their devices at all times. This is because when a person is confirmed to be positive for COVID-19, a notification will appear through My Sejahtera to request approval for the sharing of any close contact information that was detected. Now, the Malaysian Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob paid a visit to flood-affected regions in Hulu Langa today. He arrived at 9:50 a.m. and proceeded to several residences to meet the owners who were busy cleaning up their homes, which had been inundated earlier this week by the floods. Before going to several other locations where the gotong royong were held to clean up the affected areas, the Prime Minister met with volunteers cleaning who was in the midst of cleaning Surau Al Munir, which sheltered surrounding residents who had climbed to its roof before help arrived. The gotong royong involved local residents, volunteers, non-governmental organizations and members of the security forces. Ismail Sabri then visited Kampong Dusun Tua and was joined by Inspector General of Police Tan Sri Akril Sani Abdullah Sani and Malaysian Armed Forces MAF Chief General Tan Sri Effendi Buang. On the other hand, Ismail Sabri stated that the government has agreed to set up a special task force to handle post-flood activities and to prepare for the second wave of floods. He said the task force would be chaired by the Chief Secretary to the government, Tan Sri Muhammad Zuki Ali. The Prime Minister expressed that the post-flood work needs proper coordination and must not be delayed, especially when delivering assistance to flood victims. The task force will comprise of the Malaysian Armed Forces MAF and other relevant agencies, would hold their first meeting as early as tomorrow. Meanwhile, Ismail Sabri said among matters to be discussed and decided by the task force would be on the coordination of the implementation of process involved in the cleaning of houses and buildings that were affected by the floods and on the mechanism to ensure the Bantuan Wang Ehsan BWI could be channeled to the victims fast. He said the task force would also find a resolution for solid waste management as a result of the destruction caused by the floods. He added that the government, through the Environment and Water Ministry, CASA, had provided a mobile incinerator that could dispose of solid waste from its original position without polluting the environment. Apart from that, he said the government have also collected data on the total losses caused by the floods in Selangor. In related news, disaster management committees at state and district levels have been instructed to coordinate post-flood activities in the flood-affected areas. According to the National Disaster Management Agency, NADMA, Director General Dato' Aminuddin Hasim, the coordination of post-flood activities will include discussions with all other federal agencies as the flood has begun to recede in several states and districts. He also said that other post-floods initiatives, which is crucial to be implemented, are assisting with the cleaning of homes, public places and schools used as temporary relief centers, as well as the restoration of essential services. Aminuddin added that disaster management committees in Johor, Sabah and Sarawak have been instructed to be on alert after the Meteorological Department issued a continuous heavy rain warning, in addition to taking preventive measures by opening flood operation control centers. Commenting further, he said each state control center have also been instructed to submit reports for areas still experiencing floods and those where floods have receded, as well as to inform the Department of Irrigation and Drainage DID of any need for the use of pumps for water removal operations in stagnant flood areas.
Kecemasan, boleh saya bantu?
Hello, there's been a motorcycle accident here. Maybe an elephant ran it over.
Sir, there is fire accident at the address number 5 Jalan Tembika Shah Alam.
PGO from FRT Shah Alam, there was no fire accident here, over.
MERS 999. Use it wisely.
Hai, saya Nak Zainal. Menjadi seorang ibu sangat memerlukan kesabaran dan tenaga. Semua perlu disediakan untuk anak-anak agar hari mereka sempurna. Tak perlu lagi risau tentang kualiti. Semestinya barangan Malaysia lebih selamat, lebih terjamin. Saya tetap dengan barangan Malaysia.
Setiap pilihan dilakukan dengan penuh teliti. Setiap tindakan membantu pembinaan ekonomi. Menggalas tanggungjawab bersama kita memajukan industri tempatan dan membawa sinar kepada mereka yang memerlukan. Barang baik, barang kita.
ฝันของผู้หญิงทุกคนคือการได้แต่งงานกับคนที่เรารักและคนที่ฉันรักก็คือ
ผมไม่มีวันแต่งงานกับเมย์เด็ดขาดเมย์เขาไม่ใช่ผู้หญิงที่ผมรักแม่เข้าใจหรือยัง
ถ้าแกไม่แต่งกับเมยนะ แกไม่ต้องมาเรียกฉันว่าแม่
การแต่งงานของเราจะต้องเป็นความหลัก
Moy menyukai Tien yang merupakan anak kepada ibu angkatnya. Namun Tien tidak tertarik dengan Moy.
Tien
หยุดนะเมย์
ต่อไปเนี้ยเมย์จะเล่นบทผู้ช่วยแล้วก็บทเมียของพี่เทียน
Suatu hari Tien dipaksa menikahi Moy demi menyingkirkan isteri seorang lelaki berkuasa yang pernah bersamanya.
เชื่อยังมึงจับเป็ดเทียนซะแล้ว
Adakah Tien akan jatuh cinta kepada Moy pada akhirnya? Bermula 20 Disember ini, saksikan My Husband-in-Law setiap Isnin hingga Khamis 8.45 malam hanya di TVS saluran 122 Astro dan My TV.
Welcome back to TVS News at 5 now. The Ministry of Education, MOE, will assess if any school should postpone the start of the third term in 2021 to 2022 due to the severity of the floods. Before making any decision on the matter, MOE is currently evaluating the damage of school infrastructures, including computers, furniture, and textbooks. Senior Education Minister Datuk Dr. Radzi Jidin stated that school sessions would not be postponed. However, his ministry will be formulating a proper plan to resolve the issue of schools affected by the floods. To solve the issue, he added that MOE will be looking at each complication on a case-by-case basis to come up with the most effective solution. At the same time, he appealed to schools to work together with the State Education Department and the District Education Department by listing out their needs, such as furniture and textbooks, to facilitate aid distribution. Earlier, Radzi announced that the third term 2021 to 2022 school session, which was supposed to begin on January 2, 2022 for Group A and January 3, 2022 for Group B, had to be postponed by a week because of the floods. He said states in Group A, comprising Johor, Kedah, Kelantan and Terengganu, will begin school on January 9, and Group B, comprising of Melaka, Negeri Sembilan, Pahang, Perak, Perlis, Penang, Sabah, Sarawak, Selangor, Federal Territories of Kuala Lumpur, Putrajaya and Labuan on January 10. Radzi added that the MOE would still implement a rotation system for student attendance when the school opens, and the details would be announced soon. On to some global news. The world's largest and most powerful space telescope has rocketed away on a high-stake quest to behold light from the first stars and galaxy and scour the universe for hints of life. NASA's James Webb Space Telescope soared from French Guiana on South America's northeastern coast, riding a European Ariane rocket at around 7:20 a.m. Its flight to orbit lasted just under half an hour, with a signal confirming a successful outcome picked up by a ground antenna at Malindi in Kenya. The $10 billion observatory is named after James Webb, who headed NASA during the early 1960s when the U.S. was headed towards sending men to the moon for the first time. According to the space agency, its revolutionary technology gives it the ability to explore every phase of the cosmic history from within our solar system to the most distant observable galaxies in the early universe and everything in between. The Webb mission, seen as the successor to the aging Hubble Space Telescope, is also partnered with the European Space Agency ESA and the Canadian Space Agency. Wrapping up the news at 5, the Christmas spirit in New York City was marred as many queued up to get themselves tested for COVID-19. Although self-test kits were distributed, many still lined up to get themselves screened during Christmas Eve as infections spiked, driven by the Omicron variant, which has contributed almost 90% of infections in the city. Last Friday alone, New York reported more than 44,000 new COVID infections, shattering all other states' records in the country. The average number of United States coronavirus cases has risen 45% to 179,000 per day over the past few weeks. This has also hit the healthcare system hard, as hospitals have yet to recover from the previous COVID infection caused by the Delta variant. New York City plans to sharply limit the number of patrons to Times Square for its annual outdoor New Year's Eve celebration, capping the number of attendees to 15,000. And that's all the time we have for TVS News at 5. Join me later tonight at 11:30 p.m. for the TVS Nightline. Till then, take care, stay safe, and have a good day.